Hello, welcome back to my channel. This episode we're going to be kind of going through my Halloweeny weekend. It is a little bit late, but better late than never. So we started off the morning with a lovely cup of butterfly pea tea, which as you can see here was a gorgeous purple hue. We also had a pumpkin cake that was so yummy, and we watched Charlie Brown Halloween, which I don't know about you, but it's a staple in my family. I actually watched it a couple times this season. We continued our day playing backgammon. We got this board in Luxor actually last year when we went for my 30th birthday, and it's one of my prized possessions now. It has all of these gorgeous inlays. It's handmade. We just have had so much fun learning how to play backgammon. Next, we went to the Cambria Nursery downtown. It is this most darling home store in downtown Cambria, and it has kind of all of these whimsical things. It has a little cafe, it has holiday decor, it has plants. In the middle, you can see here this beautiful tree display with all of these felted ornaments. There was those cool felted mushrooms at the bottom and all of these little hanging bits, and they're all for sale. It's just always so magical and fun every time you go in there. Next, we went into Cinnabar Home Goods. It had all of these amazing Central American goods. Now, this was around Halloween time, so they also had an alebrije out in the front, and it was their contribution to the Scarecrow Festival, which I thought was really clever. Next, we went to Spellbound Shop and Garden. It is so charming in there. It's very cozy. There's these kind of couple distinct rooms where you can buy teas or herbs from jars on the shelf. There's also really lovely body works in it. And then in the back, there's this amazing garden that you can kind of meander through and just enjoy. There's little benches. There's a lot of little things to see and discover. It's very magical. We also decided to go to one of my favorite shops in town, which is Slabtown Mercantile. Now, this is very up my alley, and it has amazing goods. It was decorated for Halloween then, but it has all of these dried herbs. It kind of felt like an apothecary, and it was just stunning. They have such cool stuff. It's all kind of natural and handmade by different artisans. It's definitely not mainstream products, but all things that are really usable. They have these stunning copper pots. They have handmade soaps and handmade tinctures and kind of every little whimsical, almost like homestead thing you could think of. If you're in town, this is a must. You have to go here. It's amazing. Okay, so the Scarecrow Festival. This is something that I didn't know about until I moved into town, but I am from Southern California, so maybe that's why. They do scarecrows, they call them scarecrows, but they're really more like they've turned into sculptures over the years, all over town. Almost every business has one, and they're so fun and creative and magical. What's hard about them is you see them when you're driving on the street, but you don't get the full effect until you drive up. This was our favorite. It was a full display of Cambralians, and they were all made by different people. Some of them were made by the same people, but they're just so dynamic and interesting and innovative and creative and fun, and we just had so much fun looking at them. My favorite was one called Elon, which was this really amazing welded piece. I'm pretty sure you see it on here. And it was just I don't know, you don't really get something like this when you're in a big town like LA, so to see kind of artisans get together and participate in the community is really, really cool. Oh, here's Elon. He was my favorite. I think because my grandfather welds, he builds cars for a living, he builds hot rods. I just have a soft spot for it, and I like how it's kind of like grungy and different. Just so cool. One of my favorite traditions that my mom and I do almost every spring and fall is make French onion soup from the pastis cookbook. It is so delicious. It's actually pretty easy. It is a little time consuming, but it is so worth it, and it's the perfect meal on a cold night. Our recipe includes 6 onion, a lot of thyme, the bay leaf, salt, chicken stock, pepper, white wine, garlic, and butter. My mom was actually cooking this day and I was her sous chef. She is a very organized cook and she likes to do everything with mise en place first. And if you don't know what that means, it means that you basically measure out all of your ingredients so that when the time comes to add it into your recipe, you have it easily accessible and you can just throw it in. It's a really clean, lovely way of cooking that makes the whole process a lot less stressful and a lot more fun. The recipe itself is actually quite easy. You cut up all of the onions, you throw them in with some butter, and you reduce them down until they're golden brown, which does take quite a while, a little bit longer than you would think, but you can start smelling it and it is delicious. Then you add in some more butter, your herbs and spices, and you let that cook until it's super aromatic and all of the herbs and spices are infused into the onion. From there you add in your white wine, and it's a bit to give it the steam, a bit to give it flavor. It makes it very dynamic. Once that's all incorporated, you add the chicken stock in and let it simmer again to make sure that the flavor is infused into the stock. You have a lot of building of flavor in this recipe, and the building of flavor and the time it takes is really what makes it so delicious. It's not something you can kind of throw together. I mean, you can, but you're definitely not going to get the same depth of flavor, the same umami, the same payoff. I'll place a link to the cookbook below so you can order it. It is a really fun cookbook, and it's actually super nostalgic for me going to pastis in New York as a young teenager. Of course, you have to finish off your soup with a deliciously toasted piece of country bread, sourdough, I guess whatever you like, baguette even, and some melted cheese that is ooey gooey. Moving into a new town, we like to understand and find all of the traditions and explore them. One of the things we found is that the Scarecrow Festival ends with the Scarecrow Festival party. We decided to volunteer and it was so much fun. We even decided to dress up and we loved it so much that we'll be doing it again next year, if we're still here. Everyone was dressed up and so happy to be there. There was different stations with different treats from restaurants in town, as well as wine being poured by different wineries, and boy are there a lot here. There's amazing music, great ambiance. We just absolutely loved it. My Halloween day started off with a hot, crisp cup of coffee. You can see here the smoke billowing out of it in the sunshine. This is our front door, a simple witchy wreath with an orange ribbon and bats. freaking bats. I love Halloween. Have you guys heard that? I think it's hilarious even still. I think it came out like a couple years ago. It was like a little girl. Anyways, we decided to go on a walk at Fiscalini Ranch Preserve. We just wanted to do things that felt kind of naturey and mystical, and that's what we did. So we took a gorgeous walk here, and the nature is just stunning. I think in my last video I said the walk we take runs along the bluff. It's called the Bluff Trail, and it's beautiful. The tide today was really high, so you could see the waves just rushing in, and there's a lot of movement. It just was so magical. It was also extremely hot. It's always kind of a toss-up here if October is going to be really chilly or really hot. The last several years it's been very, very warm. So we actually were in kind of summer wear, and we had hats and sunglasses and cold water bottles just to get through the hike. We came home and played a game of backgammon to kind of catch our breath from the heat. We also had that delicious raspberry sorbet there. What was not pictured was it exploding all over the kitchen ceiling because we didn't place the lid on tight enough when we were blending it. It was a very Halloweeny thing to do. We also decided to visit Rosa Cemetary. It's the older cemetery in town, and there's a lot of burials from the late 1800s and early 1900s. It was magical to say the least, and it was definitely reverent. You could feel the peace and calm in the air. There was gravestones that were beautifully chiseled. There was ones, as you can see here, that are just wooden planks, which was, I have to say, both a little eerie, but also really fascinating. It was also special to think of all of these people that have lived here in Cambria before me. I wondered about their lives and what they experienced, what the town looked like when they lived here. On our way home, we saw more of the scarecrows in town. This was one of our favorites. It was called Peter Pumpkin Eater, and it was just a pumpkin head eating ice cream, but it brought us so much joy. There was also this running pumpkin, which was full of animation. Look at its crazy tongue popping out. By far, one of the coolest installations in town was the Wednesday display. Inspired by the Wednesday show on Netflix, they had everything that was part of the show. They had all of the characters. They had even some of the characters in double costumes. I think they had Wednesday like 2 or 3 more times, as they should. It was just so dynamic, and it just popped up one day. They installed it in like one morning, and it was just there, and it was so cool. And it spanned this whole kind of open lot. It was quite large. It was really in depth, as you can see here. They even have, the main antagonist, this like pilgrim character. If you love the show, it was really cool. It was just so fun to look at. I'm a big Addams Family fan. I love all the spin-offs and everything, so I really enjoyed looking at all of these. We finished off our Halloween with some delicious butternut squash soup and grilled cheeses made on some bread that I made myself. Oh my god, it was so delicious. We had an absolutely stunning sunset that night. It was brilliant. The sky was lit up. We finished our evening with gingerbread cookies shaped with vintage cookie cutters from when my mom was little that mean a lot to us, and watched the new Haunted Mansion movie, which I absolutely loved. I hope you had a good Halloween. See you in the next video.